Welcome and good morning, Commissioners, CDE staff, and members of the public. I'm Charisse Guerra, and as the 2024 Instructional Quality Commission Chair, I call this meeting to order. Public comments on today's meeting agenda items may be provided during the meeting in either in person or by signing up on the sheet located at the back table or by dialing 667-770-1523 and then following a prompt to provide the participant access code. Callers will then be added to a queue. The operator will notify callers when it's their turn to provide public comment. If possible, we recommend members of the public dialing in for public comment continue to view the live stream of the meeting for a better understanding of the meeting status. When it's your turn, please mute the live cast audio. When giving public comment, please state the following: commenter's first name and last name, organization affiliation, and if any, public comment. Again, the phone number is 667-770-1523. The access code is 651905. The phone number and access code will also be announced at the start of public comment for each item. This is also outlined on the January 29/30, 2025 IQC agenda posted on the IQC website. I will now introduce each commissioner participating in today's meeting. When I call your name, unmute your microphone and confirm your attendance, then mute your microphone again. Commissioner Lena Bradshaw.
Present.
Commissioner Jaquay Durant.
Present.
Commissioner Anita Friedman.
Present.
Commissioner Cheryl Fry. Commissioner Javier Hernandez.
Present.
Commissioner Jennifer Hicks.
Present.
Commissioner Janet Lanning.
Present.
Commissioner Neil McGaffey.
Present.
Commissioner Alicia Regosa.
Present.
Commissioner Nikki Reyna Guerra.
Present.
Commissioner Ku Vang.
Present.
Commissioner Marcy Winnower. Commissioner Kimberly Young. Commissioner Erica Zapata.
Present.
Student Commissioner Catherine Verando.
Present.
Assembly Member James Ramos. Senator Ben Allen. We're going to move on to item B, the flag salute. Student Commissioner Verando will now lead us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are on item C. Yesterday, we conducted an orientation that provided an opportunity for commissioners to learn and reflect upon the commission's policies, procedures, and goals. Next on the agenda is the election of the chair, vice chair, and the additional 3 members of the executive committee. These elections are conducted by our executive director, Dr. Michael Torres. I will now turn the gavel over to him.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Guerra. The elections for the 2025 Commission Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, and Executive Committee shall be separate elections conducted in that order according to Robert's Rules of Order, with nominations made from the floor. The election shall be by a majority vote of voting members. The chairperson and the vice chairperson must receive a majority of the votes cast to be elected, and the 3 executive committee members will be the 3 nominees who received the most executive committee votes. In cases when there are more than 2 candidates for chair or vice chair and no one receives a majority of the votes cast, then the 2 candidates with the most votes shall continue on to the next round of voting. The candidate with the most votes in the second round will be elected. No one may be a candidate without being present at the meeting and without one's consent. And per the bylaws, terms of office shall be 1 year, re-electable, except that the commission chairperson may not serve more than 2 successive terms. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll now begin by taking nominations for chair.
I nominate Sharice Guerra for chair.
Commissioner Lanning nominates Commissioner Guerra.
Nominate Jennifer Hicks for chair.
Commissioner Vang nominates Commissioner Hicks for chair. Oh, sorry. Zepeda. Do I have all the nominations? Do all the nominees accept the nomination? Great. Because there's more than one nomination, we will hold an election by vote. The vote will be by a show of hands. To vote for Commissioner Guerra, raise your hand. Thank you. To vote for Commissioner Hicks, raise your hand. Thank you.
Commissioner Guerra has been elected as chair of the commission.
Congratulations, Chair Guerra. I will now take nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Hicks for vice chair.
Commissioner McGaffey nominates Commissioner Hicks for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Commissioner McGaffey for vice chair.
Commissioner Vang nominates Commissioner McGaffey for vice chair. Do I have all the nominations? And do all nominees accept the nomination?
I'm honored by the nomination, but I'd like to withdraw my name from that.
Thank you, Commissioner McGaffey. Are there any other nominations? All right. So by acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Hicks has been nominated to be vice chair of the IQC. Congratulations, Commissioner Hicks. Oh, sorry, Denise, that was your part. I got really excited.
By all means, please.
I'm overstepping as I often do. So at this point, I will now take nominations for 3 executive committee members. The executive committee is elected to advise the commission chairperson in the performance of their duties in relation to the commission. Are there nominations?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Regoza.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Lanning.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Reina Guerra.
So Commissioner Hicks nominates Commissioner Regoza. Commissioner Zepeda nominates Commissioner Lanning. And Commissioner Regoza nominates Commissioner Reina Guerra.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Vang.
Commissioner McGaffey nominates Commissioner Vang. Do I have all the nominations? And do all the nominees accept the nomination?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So because there's more than 3 nominations, we'll hold an election by vote. The vote will be by a show of hands. So vote for Commissioner Regoza. Raise your hand.
We get 3 votes. How many votes do we get?
Oh. There's 3, right? Is that correct? They each vote 3 times? Correct. So to vote for Commissioner Regoza, please raise your hand. Thank you. To vote for Commissioner Lanning, please raise your hand. Thank you. To vote for Commissioner Reyna Guerra, please raise your hand. Thank you. And to vote for Commissioner Vang, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Commissioners Regosa, Lanning, and Vang are the 3 additional 2025 Executive Committee members of the Commission.
Congratulations, Executive Committee members. I now turn the gavel over to your 2025 Commission Chair, Chair Guerra. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the vote of confidence going into a second year, and I look forward to working with all of you again. This is going to be an exciting year. We're going to spend lots of time together, so I'm happy to be here supporting everybody, and I really look forward to it. So now we are going to move into the next order of business, which is the approval of minutes. So item E, November 2024. The public comment section for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on the minutes. Commissioners, you have the November 2024 IQC meeting minutes before you. If you have substantive changes, please present them now. If there are minor changes not affecting the content, please email them to Denise Figueroa, IQC Liaison. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Vang. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Reyna Guerra. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any public on the motion?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. I now call for a vote. All those in favor? All opposed? Anyone abstaining from the vote, from voting? Denise?
The motion passes.
The next item is item 1F, my chair report. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts of our school and district staff in the wake of the devastating Southern California wildfires. In times of crisis, the strength, resilience, and unwavering commitment of our educators, administrators, support staff, and volunteers shine through. These fires, which have impacted so many families and our communities, presented challenges that tested the very heart of our schools. Yet it's during these difficult times that our educators and staff stepping forward with remarkable dedication, from ensuring the safety and well-being of students to offering emotional supports for families affected. Their response has been nothing short of heroic. It's important to highlight the collaborative efforts that enabled swift and coordinated action to keep our children and communities safe. Today, I want to recognize and express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, often with little recognition, to help our schools and districts navigate these unprecedented challenges. Let us take a moment to reflect on their efforts and reaffirm our collective commitment to supporting each other as we continue to heal and rebuild in the months ahead. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. The next item is 1G, the Deputy Superintendent Report. Deputy Superintendent Cotton is unavailable to attend today's meeting. Therefore, I'll move on to item 1H, the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again to you, Chair Guerra, for your newly appointed position to the IQC, or the renewal of your appointed position. Hello and good morning, Commissioners. Welcome back. Commissioners, to a brand new year and a fresh set of meetings for our important work through 2025. And good morning and thank you for being here, State Board of Education Liaisons, Vice President Glover Woods, Member Lewis, and Member Olkin, if she is here present. And hello to the members of the public who are joining us virtually or in person. I'd like to begin my report in recognition of this space and history of the place where we're meeting on here today. We're not the original caretakers of this land. To that we thank the ancestors of the Nisenan people. I honor all those who have called this land home before us. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the amazing Seaford staff who will be supporting you in your work this year, many of whom you've actually met yesterday during your orientation. I'd also like to specifically acknowledge Mr. Cliff Rudnick, who has agreed to come back to Seaford to assist with planning during his retirement and prepping for the mathematics adoption with all of his vast expertise, while we are still on the hunt for an education administrator and filling that vacancy in our instructional materials and access unit. And speaking of mathematics, I have a few updates for you on that work. The 2025 mathematics instructional materials adoption process is well underway, and I'd like to provide you with a brief update on the recent and very successful invitation to submit meeting that we held with mathematics publishers and content developers. This meeting is a significant milestone in the adoption process, as this is the promise of publishers and developers that are committing to submit programs for potential adoption. Lots of great questions, lots of great clarification. Publishers will then base their decision on their the final submission of their programs based on information provided at that intent to submit meeting. For planning purposes, Seaford's publisher liaison, Mr. David Almquist, surveyed publishers and developers in November of last year on whether they plan to attend that upcoming invitation to submit meeting in person or virtually via Zoom. And as we anticipated, due to the overwhelming response of attendees planning to attend in person, it was evident that this room was not large enough to accommodate all of the publishers. So subsequently, your Seaford team was able to secure a larger space at the Secretary of State auditorium, and the meeting then pivoted to that location. The meeting was held a week ago on January 23rd, and there were approximately 90 people in person and another 200 people that had joined via Zoom. Questions were fielded from the crowd on site and through the Zoom Q&A feature. And while the CDE has received a few intent to submit forms, all intent to submit forms must be received by close of business on February 4th next week. While all of that is extremely exciting, I'd like to focus on what that means for the Commission. The intent to submit forms will inform the development of reviewer panels for deliberations. The CDE will be bringing the panels to you in an item at your next meeting in March for your consideration and approval. Also, I'd like to emphasize that things are going to happen very quickly for this mathematics adoption, and would like to remind you to be sure that you're available to participate as facilitators for the review panels. We'll need you available April 14th through April 18th for the training, and at least one of the 2-week deliberations, July 21st to 25, and July 28th to August 1st. That doesn't mean you can't attend both deliberations weeks as facilitators, but we understand that it's a large commitment. Next, I'd like to highlight some items of potential interest to the IQC in the governor's proposed January budget that was released on January 10th. Please keep in mind that this is only a proposed budget, and we'll learn more as we progress through 2025 and we get closer to the May revision date and ultimately the signed version of the budget later this year. The first thing I'd like to highlight is that the proposed budget includes $1 million for instructional framework process reform. The budget summary indicates that funds from Proposition 98 General Fund will be used to evaluate the state's process for developing and adopting standards, curriculum frameworks, and instructional materials, and to make recommendations to streamline and improve that process. What that looks like right now, we're not exactly sure, but as the budget gets more and more clear, then I'll be sure to update you at future meetings. In addition, the proposed budget specifically calls out in the state's investments in evidence-based literacy and professional learning to support implementation of the ELA-ELD framework that was recommended by this commission and approved by the state board. And the budget summary includes a directive to the IQC to initiate a follow-up adoption for ELA-ELD materials. Lastly, the proposed budget includes $300,000 that was identified in AB 2927 for the commission to develop the required personal finance curriculum guide as a resource to local educational agencies as they implement the personal finance graduation requirement. Just for a bit of background, and I know I talked a little bit about this at yesterday's orientation, but in a little more depth, AB 2927 does require the commission to develop and recommend to the State Board of Education for consideration and adoption a personal finance guide and resources to support a new one-semester standalone personal finance course to meet the needs of that graduation requirement. The bill in the governor's proposed budget allocated $300,000 for this project. The CDE has already kicked off some of this work, the development of the curriculum guide on December 12th with a public input webinar held in conjunction with State Superintendent of Instruction, Tony Thurmond, and an input period ran through early January. Later today, you'll hear more about the State Board of approved foundational principles that were developed in part based on this input received by the public. Seaford is currently in the process of contracting with a local educational agency to be the lead writer for the personal finance curriculum guide to develop the draft for a subject matter committee to be able to review, and we expect to execute that contract sometime in March. You'll also receive later today a timeline for this project, which was established in 2927, that must be completed by May 31st of 2026. So that's extremely fast, and so that timeline is going to be shared with you later today. As you can see, there's quite a bit of exciting work on the horizon for this commission. I thank you all in advance for your dedication to curriculum and instruction on behalf of our state students and educators. And that's my report. I formally pass the meeting back over to Chair Guerra.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. This is all good news. Our next item is 1I, Report of the State Board of Education. Good morning, Dr. Lewis.
Appreciate that. You don't want me to say that again, right? Okay. So as you know, I'm Member Lewis, and Vice President Glover Woods and I will be sharing the report today. So I will start with a report on the January 2025 meeting that we had on the 15th. And there were a few items on the agenda, and the first item was the nomination and the reappointment of the State Board of Education President, which will be President Linda Darling Hammond, and also the nomination and reappointment of Vice President Glover Woods. And so we are excited that they will be continuing in their positions. Following that nomination and reappointment, we had the presentation of California's 2 student delegates to the 2024 United States Senate Youth Program. And they will represent California in Washington, D.C. in March. And just to give you a little background, in case you're not familiar with what that program is, it's sponsored by the William Randolph Hearst Foundation, and it was established in 1962 and is continued each year by action of the U.S. Senate. The students who earn this acknowledgement are nominated by their principal. They must be a junior or a senior actively serving in an elected or appointed leadership position related to student government, education, public affairs, or community service, and express an interest in pursuing a career in public service. And just to note, the chosen delegates and alternates that were selected have interests that include careers in environmental engineering, public policy, and law. And we were very fortunate to meet the 2 delegates and the 2 alternates at our January board meeting. And so now I'll give you their names. The 2 delegates are seniors Sarah Gao at Canyon Crest Academy in the San Dieguito Union High School District, and Bodie Gower at Ukiah High School. The 2 alternates were also presented at the meeting. The first alternate is James Miller at Westlake High School in the Conejo Valley Unified School District, and Shreya Sarinivasan at Early College High School, Angelo Rodriguez High in the Fairfield Suzanne Unified School District. And I want you to know, as we heard their presentation, it was evident that all of these students have a heart for service, for their peers, for their community, and I believe in their professional pursuits and careers, they're out to make this a better world and better communities for all. And so we were excited to hear from them. The board also heard several action items that are of particular interest to you. The first being, as Director Torres has mentioned, the SBE approved the developmental timeline and the foundational principles for the 2026 Personal Finance Curriculum Guide. And as you'll learn more about today, the statutes of 2024 authorized the development and adoption of the curriculum guide and resource materials for optional use by districts and schools to create a standalone 1-semester course in personal finance. And the state board unanimously approved the foundational principles. So my fellow board member Sharon Olkin and I will be the State Board of Education liaisons to the Personal Finance Committee, and we look forward to doing that work with you. Thank you. And now I present Vice President Glover Woods.
Thank you, Member Lewis, and good morning, Commissioners. Again, good to see you today. Congratulations, Chair Guerra and Vice Chair Hicks and Executive Committee members for your service that you'll be giving during the 2025 year. And as I shared, I believe I said a little bit during our orientation yesterday, 2025 promises to be a very important and exciting year for all of you commissioners on the IQC. Much important work, many important decisions to be made that will impact the students of California. And you indeed are the right people for that work. And I look forward to being with you as you move forward with all of the things you're doing this year. So to wrap up the SBE report, I just wanted to share with you, we have already heard a little bit about the mathematics instructional materials adoption, and just wanted you to know that the SBE did approve the publisher participation fee reduction request for those small publishers, and also approved what you had brought forward in your last meeting, the appointment of the instructional material reviewers and the content review experts and the CDE facilitators. Just a quick reminder, the IQC approved the CDE recommendations for the instructional material reviewers and the content review expert, and that training will begin, as you all know, in April. And several CDE staff and 2 former IQC commissioners were also approved to serve as potential facilitators during the deliberations this summer. So the team is ready to go, and we'll have many hands on deck to do, again, that important work. The other things I will share with you at the board meeting, we did look at the 2024 California School Dashboard and the 2023-24 data release, and the State Board of Education approved the 2025 Accountability Work Plan. There are a lot of very important decision points to be made in that work plan related to science and how science would be represented on the dashboard. Also conversations about some of the other very important areas on our accountability work plan. So I encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. Things related to the growth model and other pieces. So there are, again, some very important decision points that will be looked at and information that will be brought forward to the state board throughout this 2025 year so that decisions can be made. Also, wanted to let you know that I kind of went ahead of my notes here, I apologize, that I'll read what I have here. The annual review and approval was moved from March to the January State Board meeting to allow more time for the department to engage with interest holders prior to final action in July. And just as a reminder, there's a shift that CDE will need to meet a new timeline for release of the dashboard. The annual release of the dashboard is November 15th, 2025, as required by Senate Bill 114. And beginning in 2026, the dashboard release will be October 15th. And that will be the release date moving forward. Also, just note that the accountability work plan incorporates into the dashboard the science indicator, as well as the student level growth model for grades 4 through 8 in English language arts and mathematics. We also, as a board, reviewed the currently adopted college career indicator components, the participation rate for academic indicators and science, and the dashboard alternative school status, also known as DAS, some of us know it as DASS, that application renewal criteria, as well as the differentiated assistance eligibility based on CalPADS, or the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System. So as you can see, a lot of conversation that took place January 15th related to that accountability work plan. And again, I encourage you, if you have an opportunity in all your free time, to look at that agenda item and pull up the item attachments that go along with it. Lastly, I'll share with you the State Board of Education engaged in a study session. It was a continuation of conversation that took place in July. And this was really honing in and focusing on what our process will be to get input for a state-developed profile of a graduate or profile of a learner. We're still in conversations with how we might want to actually term that work. And we will, through the year of 2025, engage in many listening sessions to hear from all educational partners on what they feel that state-developed profile of a graduate or learner should contain. Please, just as a quick reminder, know that the profile of a graduate/learner that's going to be developed by the State Board of Education is to serve as the North Star for the board in making policy decisions. It's not a profile that districts will need to adopt or shift any work that they've done. There is no requirement that districts even have one. So this work is really to help guide the board as we move forward with our policy decisions. The exciting piece about this work is that we will be able to build off of all of the phenomenal local work that has been done as it relates to a profile of a graduate. I believe we have over 100 LEAs or districts within our state that have already engaged in this work and got input from their local educational partners. And we'll be able to look at commonalities amongst those to help guide our work, as well as I believe there are 18 states within our country that also have state-developed profiles of a graduate. And some of them have a profile of a learner or a profile of a graduate. So we'll be building off of the great work that has been done within our state and also looking at what's been developed in other states, as well as, again, hearing from all of the educational partners who have thoughts and ideas around what that profile should look like and how it will help guide the work and the policy work moving forward. So we're quite excited. The goal is to bring a draft of that profile to the State Board of Education in July with adoption in September. So similar to the work you all will be engaging in, the work of the State Board of Education as it relates to that profile is also going to be moving along very quickly. And we look forward to the feedback and encourage all of you and those who you work with and are engaged with to provide feedback and input when those listening sessions are planned and scheduled, and those dates will be shared. So thank you very much for listening to my rather lengthy, it was very short on my page, but it became very lengthy as I began to speak about it. So thank you guys so much just for your time and energy, and looking forward to a wonderful meeting. Chair Guerra, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Vice President. So thank you both board members. The next item is 1J, approve the 2025 IQC goals. Our next item on the agenda is to establish IQC goals for 2025. The public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on the 2025 IQC goals. And Commissioners, just so you know, you also have a copy in your red folder if you want to see them in a standalone form. So the proposed goals are: 1, to ensure every member of the Instructional Quality Commission, IQC, understands and adheres to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. 2, provide support for the implementation of the mathematics framework. 3, provide support for the upcoming mathematics instructional materials adoption. 4, provide support for the launch events, rollout plans, and professional learning activities associated with curriculum frameworks, model curricula, and instructional materials as appropriate. 5, ensure that the IQC's priorities reflect the advisory needs of the State Board of Education. 6, engage and participate in a continuous improvement protocol as the IQC works through relevant curriculum and instructional issues. 7, provide guidance, feedback, and support for the development of the Personal Finance Curriculum Guide. Are there any questions or comments about the proposed goals for 2025? Okay, that was my wait time. Can I have a motion to approve the 2025 goals? Thank you, Commissioner Friedman. Is there a second to the motion? Was that Commissioner Bradshaw? Okay. The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Bradshaw. Is there any discussion? Public comment?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. I now call for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Anyone abstaining from voting?
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The next item is 1K, approve of the 2026 IQC meeting dates. The public comment line for this item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this item. I will now turn the meeting over to Executive Director Torres to introduce this item.
Thank you again, Chair Guerra. Commissioners, you have before you the proposed 2026 IQC meeting dates. The State Board of Education has posted their 2026 meeting dates, which are used to inform the IQC meeting dates. You'll notice that we follow the same structure we have in the past, where we are proposing to reserve the potential of a 2-day meeting on most months where there is a State Board of Education meeting. We may not need all of these meeting dates, but want to be prepared in the event that we do need all of them. Depending on how the governor's proposed budget is finalized and approved, we may ask you in a future meeting to modify these dates further as needed to support the work that's coming your way. For example, we may need to add a 1-day meeting to hold a public comment hearing should we do hold an ELA-ELD follow-up adoption. It's important for the commission to establish these meeting placeholders for commissioners to ensure their availability for these meetings. That concludes the background for consideration of these meeting dates.
Are there any questions or comments about the 2026 IQC meeting dates? Actually, I believe it should be 2025 IQC meeting dates. Oh, 26. Oh, 20, thank you, sorry. Can I have a motion to approve the 2026 IQC meeting dates as presented?
Motion to approve the meeting dates as presented.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Regosa. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Lanning. Is there any discussion? Public comment?
There's no public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. I now call for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Anyone abstaining from voting?
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The next is item 1L, approve personal finance subject matter committee. The public comment line for this item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this item. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Jennifer Bentley, Education Administrator, to present this item.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Dr. Jennifer Bentley, of the Administrator of the Standards and Curricular Guidance Unit in the Curriculum Frameworks and Instructional Resources Division here at CDE. We are here today to present one action item and two information items relating to the Personal Finance Curriculum Guide development. So first, a little background. AB 2927 directs the Instructional Quality Commission, you guys, to develop and recommend to the SBE to adopt no later than May 31st, 2026, a curriculum guide and resources for a separate standalone one-semester course in personal finance. A personal finance course is required to be offered in schools during the 2027-28 school year and is required for graduation commencing with pupils graduating in the 2030-31 school year. As you will hear about shortly, the SBE earlier this month approved foundational principles to guide the development of the curriculum guide, as well as a timeline for the project. Because it is a cross-curricular content area, it does not fall easily within any of our existing subject matter committees. So, to facilitate the development of the personal finance curriculum guide, we are recommending the formation of a 7-member personal finance subject matter committee. This SMC will be charged with reviewing and providing feedback on drafts of the personal finance curriculum guide. In July 2025, an SMC meeting separate from a regular IQC meeting. In addition, the SMC members will make recommendations to the full IQC about whether to approve the draft curriculum guide for a public comment period and whether to recommend a final draft of the guide to the SBE for adoption. Since statute requires the SBE to approve a personal finance curriculum guide by May 31st, 2026, we expect the bulk of the work in this new SMC to take place between now and mid-2026. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you for discussion.
Are there any questions or comments about the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee? Dr. Bentley, I actually have a question. So my question is, will this committee just be active for 2 years and then go away, or is this going to be like a perpetual committee?
Barring any new work coming our way, the Personal Finance Subject Committee will close when the work is complete.
I was just curious. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the Personal Finance Committee?
I move to approve the Personal Finance Committee.
The motion has been made by Commissioner McGaffey. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Hicks. Is there any discussion? Public comment?
Yes, we do have 2 members of the public here who would like to make a comment.
Hello, Joshua Mitten. I am a educator in economics. AB 2927, as in the language of the bill, authorizes disciplines or teachers with credentials in mathematics, home economics, business, and social science to teach this course. However, throughout the remainder of the bill, almost all of the emphasis is exclusive to the impact on the history, social science framework and respective departments. We would just urge the commission to consider these factors as they weigh decisions reflecting the committee members.
Kind of short. I hope you can see me way back here. My name is Emily Drum. Honorable members of the Instructional Quality Commission, greetings from Porterville, California, and I'm sure you got a map in your mind right now, but for those of you who do not know, Porterville is in the center of the state, the Central Valley. And in my long drive, almost over 200 miles up the 99 yesterday, I had so many thoughts about what I would like to say to you. As an instructional coach in my district and history social science leader in my community and my county, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak today in regards to AB 2927 and the vital role economic principles play in personal finance education. While financial literacy is essential, true financial empowerment comes from a deeper understanding of economic systems, decision-making, and critical thinking, skills that extend beyond personal budgeting into the realities of our complex global economy. I don't want to bring up eggs right now, but I know we're all thinking about the price of eggs, right? That falls into budgeting, but also why our price is so high. A strong foundation in economic principles will help equip students with the ability to analyze markets, understand inflation, taxation, and opportunity cost, and make informed decisions as consumers, workers, and future investors. Without these skills, we risk creating financially literate students who lack the broader economic understanding necessary to navigate and thrive in an ever-changing economic landscape. By integrating core economic concepts into the personal finance courses, we ensure that students are not just learning about how to manage money, but why markets behave the way that they do, how policy decisions impact their financial futures, and how to think critically about financial risk and opportunities. This is about more than just financial stability. It is about creating economically resilient and empowered citizens. I urge you to support AB 2927 with a commitment to embedding economic education at its core, giving students the tools they need to succeed, not just personally, but as informed participants in our community. Thank you.
There's no further public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. I now call for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Anyone abstaining from voting?
The motion passes.
The next item is 1M, Personal Finance Curriculum Guide, Timeline, and Foundational Principles. The public comment line for this item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this item. I will now turn the meeting back over to Dr. Jennifer Bentley, Education Administrator, to present this item.
Hello again. Okay, so the purpose of our next two items are informational and to update you on two documents that were approved by the State Board on January 15th. First is the development timeline for this project, and second, the foundational principles that will guide the writers as they develop the curriculum guide. To provide more details on these documents is Carrie Maravich, who's leading the project. She's an education programs consultant within the Standards and Curricular Guidance Unit. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's nice to be here today. AB 2927 established California Education Code Section 51225.32. This section calls for the development of a curriculum guide and the collation of resources to support the implementation of a new graduation requirement in high school. Education Code Section 51225.3 requires that commencing with the graduating class of 2030-31, students must complete a standalone one-semester course in personal finance to graduate from high school, and that this course must be offered to students in grades 9 through 12 beginning in 2027-28. AB 2927 spells out 12 topics to be included in the curriculum guide and a 13th other category. I'm going to go through these topics so that you are aware of what they are. First of all is the fundamentals of banking for personal use, including but not limited to savings and checking and managing to minimize fees. Principles of budgeting for independent living, employment and understanding factors that affect net income, uses and effects of credit, including managing credit scores and the relation of debt and interest to credit, uses and costs of loans, including student loans, as well as policies that provide student loan forgiveness. Types and costs of insurance, including home, auto, health, and life insurance. Impacts of the tax system, including its impact on personal income, the process of how to file taxes, and how to read tax forms and pay stubs. Principles of investing and building wealth, including investment alternatives to build financial security, including tax-advantaged investments such as pensions and 401k plans, individual retirement accounts, and stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and index funds. Enhancing consumer protection skills by raising awareness of common scams and frauds and preventing identity theft. Identifying means to finance college, workforce education, low-cost community college options, and other career technical educational pathways or apprenticeships. Understanding how psychology can impact one's financial well-being, charitable giving, and then finally other topics that are directly and specifically relevant to personal finance. The 2024 state budget, as Dr. Torres mentioned, allocated $300,000 for the development of a personal finance curriculum guide and resources. This accounts for expenses related to the writer's contract, professional editing and design, and accessibility work for online posting of the guide, as well as rollout activities and state indirect costs. Also, as Dr. Torres mentioned, on December 12th, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, held a public input webinar in which teachers, parents, guardians, students, and community members were asked to submit written input on content to include in the curriculum guide, including the personal finance topics required by statute. The webinar was attended by over 200 members of the public, and the public input submitted informed the development of the foundational principles we are bringing to you today for your review. Contracted writers will develop the curriculum guide in alignment with these foundational principles, with your brand new personal finance subject matter committee reviewing the drafts and guiding their revision. All right. So that brings us to our first informational item, which is the development timeline that was approved by the SBE 2 weeks ago. Both this document and the foundational principles are in your red folder, if you haven't found those yet. As you can see, we are already on the third row of this timeline, the formation of the SMC. Next, contracted writers will develop the curriculum guide in alignment with the foundational principles over the next several months, and the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee will review drafts, as I just mentioned, at a meeting during the summer of 2025. The full IQC will review the draft curriculum guide at its September 2025 meeting, and the draft will be available for public comment from October 1st to October 31st, 2025. After a revision process in March of 2026, we anticipate that the IQC will recommend the curriculum guide to the state board, with the state board considering it for approval at its May 2026 meeting. This proposed timeline will fulfill the IQC and SBE's statutory requirement to have a personal finance curriculum guide in place by May 31st, 2026. Okay, and now for our second informational item, the Personal Finance Curriculum Guide Foundational Principles, also approved at the State Board meeting on January 15th. This document gives the writers guidance about what is needed statutorily and what educators and other interest holders have told us is needed. The foundational principles were developed based on the legislative requirements, past curricular projects, and input from the public that we collected at the public input webinar, after the public input webinar. The statutory requirements section of the foundational principles document outlines what AB 2927 requires the curriculum guide to contain, specifically the 12 personal finance topics I listed earlier. This section also establishes that the curriculum guide must meet federal accessibility requirements. The foundational principles also lay out the general principles for writers to adhere to, including ensuring that information in the guide is accurate, that it is aligned to the literacy standards for history, social science that are included in the California Common Core state standards for English language arts and literacy in history, social science, science, and technical subjects, as well as the model school library standards for media literacy where appropriate. Other general principles include the promotion of the values of economic empowerment and financial responsibility, and that the language used in the curriculum guide is inclusive of not only school personnel, but also parents and guardians and the larger community. The audience section requires the curriculum guide to be sensitive to teachers of differing content area expertise and different grade levels, and to include strategies that will allow access to personal finance content for all students, including students with disabilities, multilingual learners, and students in a range of socioeconomic levels. The foundational principles also state that the administrative and teacher support that the curriculum guide will offer must be easy to understand for teachers with various educational backgrounds and provide examples of different methods of instruction and pedagogical approaches. It should highlight successful personal finance programs in progress throughout the state, including strategies for engaging with students, parents, and communities, and provide examples of high-quality, no-cost resources for instruction and professional development resources for teachers and administrators. The curriculum guide will also include course outlines of personal finance classes currently being taught in California that can serve as models as schools implement the new course and graduation requirements. And finally, based on public input collected by the CDE, the personal finance curriculum guide will also include the following other topics: purchasing versus leasing a vehicle, renting an apartment, home buying, digital finance, which includes online banking, digital wallets, and cryptocurrency, predatory lending, California-specific financial information such as the California DREAM Act, Cal Grant programs, and state-specific salary information, and any additional topics that are determined during development. We are confident that this foundational principles document will serve as effective guidance for the development of the personal finance curriculum guide. And that concludes this presentation of these two personal finance informational items, and we're prepared to answer any additional questions you might have for us.
Thank you for all of that information. Are there any questions or comments on the presentation? Is there any public comment?
We do have a member of the public who would like to give public comment.
Check, check. There we go. I wish my lighting was a little bit better. Thank you guys for allowing public comment, and I'd also like to thank all the work that's gone into the development of the personal finance course. I don't think anybody here objects to the benefit and necessity of empowering young people with a life of personal finance knowledge, skills, and strength to manifest better outcomes for themselves and hopefully end up happier, more healthy people. And I'd like to say that I feel a great deal of confidence in the process that's undergoing in the manifestation here. As a 20-year high school economics teacher, I do worry that we may be putting the cart before the horse, and I want to make sure that the people involved in the process of developing this framework take time and consideration to understand that most of the personal finance curriculum is a manifestation of the foundations in economics. And while it's perfectly relevant to do reverse problem solving, to look at your outcomes and then build back to foundations, it would be remiss of us as a state to no longer empower our young people with the holistic critical reasoning skills, modeling, and problem solving that comes in understanding economics at a core fundamental level. And it's my hope that you take into serious consideration the importance of building a framework and guidance that still embeds foundations of economics to manifest better personal finance outcomes while still empowering students the critical reasoning skills to participate in society, to understand the problems at their most fundamental of levels. If we fail to do that, if we replace economics with personal finance at the cost of holistic understanding, it will be a loss. Thank you.
Hello again, Joshua Mitten. I'm an economics educator in the state. Just to ratify the last speaker's comments, I want to put in sharp relief why we're expressing our concern relative to economics. AB 2927 has a statement that declares the bill would authorize, commencing with pupils graduating in the 2030-31 school year, including for pupils enrolled in a charter school, a pupil who completes a separate standalone one-semester course in personal finance that is not combined with any other course, to elect to be exempt from the graduation requirement to complete a one-semester course in economics. A strict reading of the bill establishing this new personal finance requirement makes the current standing economics requirement functionally invalid, and that is the nature of our concern about the neglect of economics content in light of the personal finance course requirement. And so we urge the all involved in the personal finance subject matter committee to consider that and see to it that we do not put the cart before the horse and sacrifice foundational economics concepts at the risk of what can often be a very procedural personal finance. We want to make sure we're still encouraging students to do the deep thinking, engage with the system, and understand the motivating factors that govern the personal finance environment they face. Thank you.
There's no further public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. Next on the agenda is 1N, Preschool TK Learning Foundations. Public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to speak. I will now turn it over to Dr. Jenna Polhemus, Education Director, our Administrator. I don't know if I gave you a promotion, Jenna.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Jenna Polhemus, and I am the Administrator of the Curricular Initiatives Unit here in Curriculum Frameworks and Instructional Resources Division. In just a few moments, we'll be hearing a presentation from the CDE Director of the Early Education Division, Stephen Profiter, on the newly revised Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations, also referred to as the PTKLF. Previously named the Preschool Learning Foundations, or PLF, these learning goals were originally released by the California Department of Education in January of 2008, which was Volume 1, 2010, which was Volume 2, and then 2012, which was Volume 3. In the 2021 budget bill, the CDE was given the authority to revise the PLF to reflect recent research in child development in all domains, including math, language and literacy, science, social emotional development, history, social science, health, visual performing arts, and physical development. While this project was spearheaded in Early Education Division, CFERD is grateful for the level of inclusion and cross-divisional input that went into the latest version of the foundations, and the very intentional efforts that intentional efforts to ensure a bridging and seamless alignment between the California State Board adopted K-12 standards and associated curriculum frameworks. As you learn more about the PTKLF, please consider how the information shared informs the work that you do outside of your role as an IQC commissioner and how you may be able to further disseminate and promote this document throughout your local networks. Sorry, I was sick yesterday. At this time, I would like to invite Director Profiter to the podium. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Director, or Executive Director Torres, Chair Guerra, and Commissioners. I'm Stephen Profiter, the Director of the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education. Today, I'm happy to be here to share with you an update about our work on the publication of the Preschool and TK Learning Foundations. Let's see. Bear with me as I orient to. There we go. We'll first provide some acknowledgments for the work, define what the foundations are, as well as provide an example. We'll also review how this revision promotes diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We'll end with who uses the PTKLF and then the implementation support that is currently provided. So first, to acknowledge contributions to the Preschool and TK Learning Foundations, I'd first like to start with our former Deputy Superintendent, Sarah Neville Morgan. I'll just say was a giant in early education in this state. And she had spearheaded a lot of this work and provided kind of the executive sponsorship and leadership. Of course, under our State Superintendent of Instruction, Tony Thurman. I'd also like to acknowledge the West Ed team, who we had worked with on the initial development of the Preschool Learning Foundations and the revisions to the Preschool and TK Learning Foundations, led by Peter Mangione. The State Board of Education, led by Linda Darling-Hammond. 35 child development experts with expertise in specific domains of learning, 12 diversity, equity, and inclusion reviewers, and 23 individuals that contributed to examples of children demonstrating skills, including language translations of child speech and authentic integration of different cultures. We also had interest holders representing over 35 early childhood education experts, and education organizations. I'm sure some of you participated. And we also had over 100 preschool and TK educators who provided feedback on the revisions. I'd also like to give a special appreciation to some of the early education division team, so specifically Dr. Lily Moffitt and Olivia Damaris consultants who lead on this work, and education administrator Stephanie Myers, who supported their work and led. All right, so what are the learning foundations? Just a little bit of background, and Dr. Polimas shared a little bit about this, but they are an update to a prior version. The formerly called the Preschool Learning Foundations, originally published in 2008, so prior to the existence of Transitional Kindergarten, and then new domains were added in 2010 and 2012. The Preschool and TK Learning Foundations are under the purview of the superintendent rather than the State Board of Education, which is why IQC was not, say, more formally involved in the process of developing the PTKLF. It's also important to note that the Education Code, Section 48,000, which is regarding transitional kindergarten instruction, states it's the intent of the legislature that the TK curriculum be aligned to the PTKLF. So what are the foundations? The PTKLF describe the knowledge and skills that most children ages 3 to 5.5 develop in high-quality early education programs. While in California we don't call these foundations standards, we do view them as what educators should look to as learning goals, acknowledging that children come to their early education program with different abilities, and educators should meet children where they are in their development. These are learning goals, and all children should be supported in a developmentally appropriate way with scaffolding to support them to reach these foundations, these goals. The foundations are intended for use in transitional kindergarten, the California State Preschool Program, and other state-funded, federally funded, and private preschool programs in California, including which occur in school settings. They occur in community-based organizations, in the community, as well as in family child care homes. So while these are not required for use in transitional kindergarten, as I mentioned, Education Code provides that the legislative intent that curriculum be aligned to the Preschool and TK Learning Foundations. So there are 9 domains of learning in the PTKLF, and they really focus on kind of addressing the needs of the whole child. In this iteration of the PTKLF, we did add a new domain, which, if you have familiarity with the desired results developmental profile, which I'll touch on later, it's approaches to learning. So that's a new addition to this, this iteration. So approaches to learning focuses on skills that help children engage as learners. So for example, curiosity, initiative, persistence, and attention regulation. We also have social and emotional development as a domain, language and literacy, and within language and literacy, it's inclusive of foundational language development, regardless of a child's home language, and English language development for children learning English as a second language. Then mathematics, science, physical development, health, history and social science, and visual and performing arts. The PTKLF is also aligned to the kindergarten standards in language and literacy, math and science to be a more developmentally appropriate stepping stone between preschool, TK, and kindergarten. This plays out not only in the seamless progression in the skills themselves, but also in the structuring of the domains as well as the terminology that's used in the foundations, so that educators can more easily see connections between the two standards. In some cases, there is some overlap between the later foundation and the kindergarten standards, but this is developmentally appropriate and reflects what we know from research that children can do. Next, we have an example from the foundation. So this comes from the math domain, focused on number composition. So you see the foundation statements on the left and right here that demonstrate the progression from 3 to 4.5 and 4 to 5.5 years. Below the foundation statements are examples that help demonstrate how the foundation looks in a developmentally appropriate context, such as play. You can see one example here, but most foundations have at least 3 examples to demonstrate. We want to highlight these examples because the foundation statements should not be used in isolation, as they risk being misinterpreted and not taught in a developmentally appropriate way. There are also some brief sections to support educator scaffolding of some of the substandards in the domains of foundational language development. Math, science, social, emotional, and approaches to learning. A bulleted list in these sections include some instructional strategies and examples for educators to nurture specific skills. And I'll just note that in our work with interest holders on these sections, we received a lot of positive feedback from educators. So how does the PTKLF promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? We are really excited about how this revision, about some of the work we were able to do in this revision, because there was an intentional focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as, which we feel cultivates, belonging. And I want to highlight that although I'll talk about kind of components separately, there is intersectionality between, and we hope that, as you look at the PTKLF and the educators do, they'll see that as well. And while great care was taken to represent children's backgrounds and experiences in the foundations, I want to make a disclaimer that it's impossible to adequately represent all cultures. We certainly did our best, but there's so many languages in California and different abilities, but we did our utmost to capture the rich diversity and strengths of California's children. So the foundations highlight ways in which children's cultural and racial ethnic experiences can inform how they learn and develop, and how learning opportunities can build on children's prior knowledge, which creates that joy and belonging, that connectedness in the education setting. Examples throughout the domains reflect racial, ethnic backgrounds, cultures, and languages to honor and celebrate diversity, and how children might demonstrate their developing skills and knowledge. Many of the examples name specific cultural practices and experiences that children draw on to make meaning of what they are learning and demonstrate their growing skills and development. Examples were also written to reflect the diversity of tribal nations and communities in California and illuminate unique aspects of cultural practices from specific tribal communities. All language varieties that children bring to the early education program should be leveraged as linguistic assets. To reflect this, we included examples that reference child speech and languages other than English. And in many cases, the kind of the translanguaging that occurs as well. Uplifting multilingualism as a strength. So when we use the term multilingual, we're just referring to a child who is acquiring 2 or more languages at the same time, or a child who is learning English while continuing to develop their home language. In an effort to promote belonging, the PTKLF elevate children's home languages in ways that represent the diversity of young children in California. So there's varied examples of children speaking translanguaging, as I mentioned, code switching, and in addition, both multilingual capacities as resources both language and literacy subdomains of the foundations include at least one example in the orthography of the following home languages. So we have Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Arabic, Armenian, Punjabi, Russian, Ukrainian, Farsi, Korean, Hmong, and Tagalog. And we know from our California State Preschool Program data that we've got far more languages that are spoken. So we would have loved to have included all. So anyway, we have a fairly good representation of California's children. One second. So around inclusion of children with disabilities, to promote inclusivity, the foundations incorporate universal design for learning. And truly, the 2008, the initial launch of the Preschool Learning Foundations was incorporated universal design for learning principles. So we continue that with the PTKLF. And in that, recognizing and accommodating the unique ways in which children may demonstrate their growth regardless of abilities. So in specific examples, we used the terms communicates, responds, shares, and expresses are used often in addition to the term says. So making sure that we're representing those different communication styles that children have, regardless of the setting they may be in. Also using the terms identifies and indicates or points to are used to represent multiple ways of indicating objects, people, or events in the environment. All examples are also written in the language that affirms every child's identity, includes both person-first language, for example, a child with autism, and identity-first language, for example, a deaf child, to highlight how children's identities are represented in the foundations. Now, using the PTKLF, so now that we've got kind of a general overview of what's in the preschool and TK learning foundations, how we've made the revisions, we want to just conclude with how the PTKLF should be used and who uses it. So, some of its uses include setting learning goals for children. So acknowledging that to do this, you first need to meet the child where they are on their developmental continuum and then scaffold them to meet these goals. Also planning learning environments and teaching strategies to support that scaffolding, selecting and implementing curricula, designing and use of assessments, enhancing preschool to third grade alignment, and then informing program continuous quality improvement. In terms of alignment with assessments, the PTKLF also aligns with the desired results developmental profile. The current version that we use that's required for use in our state preschool programs is a 2015. We are in conjunction with the updates we made to PTKLF. We also are working on updates to the DRDP to reflect and align those changes. So the observation assessment, similar to the multiple domains in the PTKLF, the DRDP also covers those same domains. It's required for use in the California State Preschool programs, and it is, as well as for children with an IFSP, Individual Family Service Plan, and an individual education program. So for children birth to age 5. So this includes children aged 4 to 5 with an IEP in TK and kindergarten. We know from our universal pre-K planning and implementation grant data that there are about 20% of programs, 20% of TK programs that use the DRDP for general education. So while it's required for all of our 600 or 50 state preschool programs throughout the state that are operated by LEAs and operated by community-based organizations, 20% of LEAs also use it for Gen Ed. I touched on this a little bit already, but it's important to note who's required to use the PTKLF. So it's specifically required for the state preschool program and 8 other state subsidized programs funded by the California Department of Social Services. So there's programs that support infants, toddlers, school age, children and their learning. And they are, the PTKLF are California's early learning standard. So essentially any program that's required to meet Title V requirements also has to use the PTKLF. TK, however, is not required to use the PTKLF. Just reiterating, Education Code says it's the legislative intent that curriculum is aligned to the PTKLF. It doesn't say that it doesn't require the use of the PTKLF. In our division's work, we've received a lot of questions about this, and particularly around instructional materials for TK and how to choose curricula that align with the PTKLF. In terms of implementation support, things that currently exist, there are some pre-existing supports that are being updated with the release of the PTKLF. The first is the California Early Childhood Online, which you see in the acronym here, CECO. They're updating. It is it's a system that's funded through federal quality dollars that the California Department of Social Services has to support, provide resources for educators on things such as the PTKLF, as well as other quality pieces. I feel like the mic is cut out. No? Everybody hear me okay? All right. Well, okay, I'll speak louder, maybe. This one? That sounds, I'm hearing that. Okay. All right. So CECO is one resource that's available for educators. And then there's a California Preschool Instructional Network, which is it's operated by West Ed, funded by the Department of Social Services federal quality dollars, and similarly provides training on the preschool and TK learning foundations. So this is, and then we've done some pre-recorded trainings or presentations, I should say, on each domain. CDE staff have done that, and we've posted those to the CDE website. CPIN is technically available to all early childhood educators. Because the funding is with CDSS, there is kind of an expansion of focus to support family, friend, and neighbor settings and family child care home settings as well. So as a result, they may be less accessible to TK. Let's see. And then looking, I'm hearing an echo now. So sorry. So looking ahead, preschool through 3rd grade learning progressions. As a part of this, we firmly believe in aligning what we do in preschool up through the early primary grades. So one of the things that we had done kind of in conjunction with the updates to the PTKLF is we had launched an initiative to develop learning progressions. In fact, the language that Dr. Polimas referenced spoke to math, direct assessments for math and literacy in early, beyond preschool and beyond TK in that kind of authorizing funding. So as part of that, we use that kind of charge to extend the PTKLF to demonstrate developmentally appropriate practice across the P3 continuum. So those P3 learning progressions will be in the areas of language and literacy, math and science to demonstrate alignment with the K3 standards. Social emotional development and approaches to learning will also be a piece of that, and anticipating that they will be available summer of 2025. And I think that concludes this. We have, I mentioned the pre-recorded presentations. They're here at the link on the slide. I think I need to read this part out loud. So bear with me, https://www.cde.ca.gov/sp/re/ps-foundations.asp. Sorry, it's in my notes that I have to read that. So, so thank you for listening to, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. Questions or comments on the presentation?
I have a question. So thank you. Great work on PTKLF. Your team is amazing. I appreciate the alignment in strands to CCSS, particularly within math, from algebra and functions to mirror sort of the operations and algebraic thinking that we would see K up. I'm wondering, though, the intent to be aligned with PTKLF versus modified kindergarten curriculum, which is what we see, right, in CDE. Are there plans to change language from first year of a 2-year kinder program to the second year of a preschool program for TK to kind of mirror that developmentally appropriate play-based continuum of learning that we would see on DRDP versus mastery of standards that we would see on CCSS in kindergarten?
Such a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Lanning. We at CDE don't have kind of the authority to modify statutory language. We do, however, have the ability to provide technical assistance. And one of the things that we've done as a division is kind of worked with our partners across the department to understand where, if in the interest of providing that technical assistance to the legislature and to the administration, if we were to separate TK and K so that TK was formally a grade, rather than kind of referred to as a de facto grade, what would the implications be? And so one of those things is we've worked with our colleagues in Seaford on some of those pieces, and so we're gathering kind of that information, but we as a department cannot unilaterally make that change. We're working on providing technical assistance around that. It's pretty complicated. I'll just say that to separate TK and K. We think that there should be differentiated instructional materials, differentiated curriculum between TK and K. Not saying modifying is not enough. It truly should be differentiated because developmentally, 4-year-old children are different from 5-year-old children. So, yeah.
I do have a comment. I've worked with many TK teachers in the public K-12 system, and there hasn't been a lot of support for them. I think they're in this gray space, and with the birthdays, this is the last year where we will start to see more 3.5-year-olds in those classrooms. And I guess my thing is, in the consideration of instructional materials and curriculums for teachers, where's that guidance in that? And I hear you say differentiated support. I think that's going to be really critical because we've had teachers that are saying we have 3.5-year-olds and then we have 5-year-olds. in the same, or almost 5-year-olds in the same space. So how do we support them all? And they're all moving at different and growing at different levels. Still considering the developmentally appropriate approaches, but I think that really is a concern. And there definitely needs to be, you mentioned TA support with just the curriculum. What does that look like? I know that in your presentation, you shared that the PTKLFs is not necessarily required to be used in TK. However, I've seen it, and I think it provides a lot of great guidance in that. And I think if more teachers and educators in that TK, or in this case here, I'm specifically speaking of teachers that are in that public space. If they had more guidance, I think it'll be helpful, because they're asking and they're trying to do the right things. Districts are also trying to find the curriculums to support their TK teachers, and so I think just to commend and add to what you've already shared, and Commissioner Lanning has already shared, the PTKLFs. I have to say it really slow because I always mess it up. It's a great document. I see the alignment there. I also know that in the past, there's been versions of a TKK alignment document. I know that was recently updated and revised. However, with the new PTKLFs, I'm wondering if there will be a document like that. You mentioned that there's some support in the new PTKLFs, and so I'm just wondering if we had a document like that, I think that really lays it out. I think it might be helpful for teachers who are trying to meet the needs of 3.5-year-olds to about 5 in their learning space and teaching space. So just something to consider. Yeah.
We definitely agree, and we're releasing as much guidance as we can that our resources will allow. Part of the guidance that we provided when the governor and the administration kind of launched this universal expansion of transitional kindergarten was use of funding through a planning and implementation grant that our department administered to support professional development around the preschool learning foundations. Still with this caveat that it's not, the requirement for TK, it's just meeting the intent. So we know that from the data that we received from that reporting that a lot of districts are doing that. A lot of LEAs are doing that. We also have stood up a UPK coordinator kind of community circle where we share kind of resources present on PTKLF, and then these are county level individuals that are also funded to support TK implementation in their county. So we definitely hear you, and we're doing, yeah.
And I do want to say that earlier I mentioned the alignment document. I think the P3 progression is, in my mind, I'm thinking that's probably what it's going to be in place of that. So I'm excited to see that, because I think that's also going to be really helpful and really bring that alignment across all of the grade levels. So thank you for that.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Just gratitude for your division and your team for all of your work, and especially the purposeful focus on inclusion and multilingualism. I think really calling that out, that's been a strength of our state preschool programs for many years. So seeing that called out in this document is very helpful. And then I also appreciate the data that you shared on the TK teachers that are using the DRDP. And I think speaking from the field, with my field hat on, we're seeing an increase in TK teachers as they become exposed and they understand the purpose and how it supports them with that developmentally appropriate education. I think we're going to see that number go up.
I also have a comment in terms of I like the connection that's being made with the ELA-ELD framework, which is this idea that when students come into our classrooms, that it's asset-based. And so similar to Commissioner Hicks, that we're building on what students are bringing into our classrooms and expanding their experiences. I do have a question in terms of, I think there's a lot of connections around or questions around the curriculum, but one big piece is the how. I think what's happening is we have a lot of kindergartner teachers who are now doing TK. And so kind of differentiating what's the difference between a classroom setting that's TK, play-based, and one that's a kinder classroom. And so there is a big difference, particularly now that we're having an increase of students who are 4-year-olds. And so kind of keeping that in mind. And so that play-based piece, and I think that DRDP is going to be very helpful because that'll provide some guidance. So something to consider is how can we support teachers around professional development as they transition from being kindergartner teachers to TK.
It's a great point, and I'll just add that we know that there's a range of different teachers that are assigned to TK classrooms, not just thinking about who the credential you need to have to be in a TK classroom. You can have multiple subject credential, and so you could have from 1 year been teaching 4th graders, right, to now being TK. So we absolutely take that to heart in the need to ensure that there's developmentally appropriate, developmentally informed practices that are shared with teachers. And so that's a lot of LEAs have used those the planning and implementation funds to support that professional development. Yeah.
One last thing, also in terms of developmentally appropriate, I know that our focus is on curriculum and instruction, but one of the challenges that schools are facing is the fact that the infrastructure is not built for 4-year-olds, so it's something to consider. I'm not sure what division would look into that, but I know that as 4-year-olds are enrolling in our schools, we're not quite ready for what their needs.
TK truly has brought, I think, the work of brought all divisions together. So it does touch every division at the department. So we also have guidance around school facilities and working with our school facilities and transportation services folks. Things like, designing classrooms or placing classrooms near a bathroom, having a bathroom in the classroom ideally, and all the things that are, having these environments look like preschool settings. Yeah.
I have just maybe one more question. Or something that's surfacing is that ELD, and I appreciate the inclusion in PTKLF, is required for preschools. ELD is not required for TK. And then we circle back in kinder as a requirement. That to me seems like a missed opportunity in TK, definitely to meet the needs of our diverse learners. So I don't know, powers that be, right? Can we just address this? But my question is specific to the P3 alignment. It's my understanding that it's coming out in summer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's our timeline, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would also just like to say how much I appreciate all the work that has gone into developing this guidance, that now TK is included in the document. In my position as a coach previously, we would turn to the preschool learning foundations for planning units for our TK and preschool teachers. And I really appreciate how you can see for each grade or age span, what is appropriate when thinking about developing some of those units. So I feel now you're providing that for our TK teachers even more so. And I really appreciate also the assets-based inclusivity. And I wanted to say that it seems like there's a lot more access for teachers to be able to pull these documents when they are looking to plan or implement their instruction. And so I appreciate that. And I like the P3 alignment as well, because you can see just exactly where they'll be going and then touch back. So I really appreciate all the work done around developing this document, and I can see how useful that it could be for our TK teachers.
I just wanted to second what Commissioner Hernandez brought to the table here, stress the importance of that. I know as an administrator in the largest elementary school district in California, the TK teachers are wanting more opportunities for professional development, for training, for that kind of collaboration to improve on this.
All right, commissioners, thank you all for your thoughtful input. Thank you for your presentation. Denise, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this item is now closed. We are going to take a 15-minute break, and we'll return at 10:50. 55. I can do math. See you at 10:55. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for your patience. We are now going to Executive Committee. I call the Executive Committee to order. If you're a member of the Executive Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. Agenda item A, appointment of subject matter committee chairs. This is an action item. Commissioners, a complete chart indicating your committee preferences can be found in your folder. I will reference this chart as I make IQC chair selections, and the executive committee will use it as we make committee assignments. Please recall the responsibilities for committee chairs were detailed during yesterday's orientation. Commissioner Zepeda, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the English Language Arts Development Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanning, are you ready to accept the duties of chair of the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
Commissioner Durant, are you ready to accept the chair of the History, Social Studies, Science Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry, are you ready to accept the duties of chair of the Science Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
This may be a surprise. Commissioner Bradshaw, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the Health Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
Commissioner McGaffey, are you ready to accept the duties of chair of the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee?
Yes.
Commissioner Vang, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee for 2025?
Yes.
Commissioner Hicks, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the Arts Subject Matter Committee for 2025?
Yes.
Commissioner Regosa, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the World Languages Subject Matter Committee for 2025?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez, are you ready to accept the duties of chair of the Education Technology Committee for 2025?
Yes.
Commissioner Reina Guerra, are you ready to accept the duties of the chair of the Ad Hoc Committee for 2025?
Yes.
This is item B, assignment of members of the subject matter committees. Members of the executive committee, let us consult the survey results and decide who should serve on each of the committees. Let's start with the English Language Arts, Language Development Subject Matter Committee and work our way across the page. So as we look at the English Language Arts, English Language Development Committee, and we look at the ones and twos, I'm going to read, and you guys tell me if you agree. So for the ELA, ELD Subject Matter Committee, we're recommending Durant, Friedman, Hernandez, Hicks, Regosa, and Vang.
Can you read them a little bit slower, please?
Absolutely. For ELA, ELD, Subject Matter Committee, Commissioner Durant, Commissioner Friedman, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Hicks, Commissioner Regosa, Commissioner Vang. And with Commissioner Zepeda as the chair, that should make 7 for the committee. Are we in agreement, Executive Committee? For math, Commissioner Bradshaw. Commissioner Lanning is chair. Commissioner McGaffey. Commissioner Reyna Guerra. Commissioner Vang. Commissioner Winnower. And Student Commissioner Verando. Good. That should make 7. History, Social Studies. Commissioner Durant is the chair. Commissioner Friedman and Commissioner Young. For Science, Commissioner Bradshaw. Commissioner Fry is the chair. And Commissioner Zepeda. For Health, Commissioner Bradshaw as the chair, Commissioner Fry, and Commissioner Young. For Personal Finance, Commissioner Bradshaw, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Lanning, Commissioner McGaffey is chair, Commissioner Winnower, Commissioner Zepeda, and Commissioner Verando. For PE, Commissioner Fry, Commissioner Reyna Guerra, and Commissioner Vang is chair. For the Arts, Commissioner Durant, Commissioner Hicks is chair, and Commissioner Young. For World Language, Commissioner Friedman, Commissioner Regosa is chair, and Commissioner Reyna Guerra. For Ed Tech, Commissioner Durant, Commissioner Hernandez is chair, Commissioner Lanning, Commissioner McGaffey, Commissioner Winnower, Commissioner Zepeda, Commissioner Verando. For ad hoc, Commissioner Fry, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Hicks, Commissioner McGaffey, Commissioner Regosa, Commissioner Reyna Guerra is chair, and student member Verando. Okay, now we are going, we're going to designation of the liaisons. Concurrent committee for the California Subject Matter Committee. We didn't talk about this one, so we need to, so for liaison, we have 5 people who were interested in being the liaison. I know that Commissioner Young was the previous and is not here and may not, we're not sure about her term. Gotcha. Commissioners, do you have any recommendations? They meet once a quarter, right? Yes. It's quarterly. Yeah, I think Commissioner Durant would be a good recommendation. Okay. And for Sunshine, we're going to keep Janet Lanning, Commissioner Lanning. Okay, so let me ask them if they'll accept. Okay, Concurrence Committee for the California Subject Matter Committee, CSMP, Commissioner Durant, are you ready to accept the duties of liaison for the Concurrence Committee for the California Subject Matter Projects for 2025?
Yes.
Commission Sunshine Club, Commissioner Lanning, are you ready to accept the duties of the Commission Sunshine Club for 2025?
Yes.
And bring us some sunshine. We will now hear public comments on any items from the Executive Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There are not. Did you want me to read back all the committee assignments?
Commissioners, is that a yes? Okay, that'll be good.
For English Language Arts, English Language Development, we have Commissioner Durant, Friedman, Hernandez, Hicks, Regosa, Vang, and Zepeda as the chair. For Mathematics, we have Commissioners Bradshaw, Lanning as the chair, McGaffey, Reyna Guerra, Vang, Winnower, and Verando. History Social Science, Commissioner Durant is the chair, and Commissioners Friedman and Young. Science, Commissioner Fry is the chair, with Commissioners Bradshaw and Zepeda as members. For Health, Commissioner Bradshaw is the chair, with Commissioners Fry and Young as members. For Personal Finance, Commissioners Bradshaw, Hernandez, Lanning, McGaffey is the chair, Winnower, Zepeda, and Verando. Physical Education, Vang is the chair, with Commissioners Fry and Reyna Guerra as members. For Arts, Commissioner Hicks is the chair, with Commissioners Durant and Young as members. World Languages, Commissioner Regosa is the chair, with Commissioners Friedman and Reyna Guerra as members. Education Technology, Commissioner Hernandez is the chair, with Commissioners Durant, Lanning, McGaffey, Winnower, Zepeda, and Verando. Lastly, we have the Ad Hoc Committee on State Board of Education Initiatives. Commissioner Reyna Guerra is the chair, with Commissioners Fry, Hernandez, Hicks, McGaffey, Regosa, and Verando. Our liaison for the Concurrence Committee for the California Subject Matter Projects is Commissioner Durant, and our Commission Sunshine Club liaison is Commissioner Lanning.
Thank you, Denise. The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Executive Committee. Do we need a break? Yes. We need a 5-minute break. We'll be back in 5, which is 11:27. Thank you. Welcome back. We will now move on to item 3, Ad Hoc Committee on State Board of Education Initiatives. Turn it over to Commissioner Reyna Guerra.
I call the Ad Hoc Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to make public comment on matters related to this committee. The members of the 2025 Ad Hoc Committee are myself, Commissioner Fry, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Hicks, Commissioner McGaffey, Commissioner Regosa, and Commissioner Verando, Student Commissioner. If you are a member of the Ad Hoc Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Regosa as vice chair.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Regosa has been nominated to be vice chair of the Ad Hoc Committee. Oh, has been nominated by Commissioner Hicks, pardon me, to be vice chair of the Ad Hoc Committee. Does the committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Regosa? Commissioner Regosa is vice chair of the Ad Hoc Committee. We will now hear public comment on any items for the Ad Hoc Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Ad Hoc Committee meeting.
I call the Arts Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Arts Subject Matter Committee are myself as chair, Commissioner Durant, and Commissioner Young. If you are a member of the Arts Subject Matter Subcommittee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business today is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. So I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Durant.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Guerra has nominated Commissioner Durant to be the vice chair of the Arts Subject Matter Committee. Does the committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Durant?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Durant is vice chair of the Arts Subject Matter Committee. We will now hear public comment on any items for the Arts Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment?
There is no public comment.
Thank you, Denise. The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Arts Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the Education Technology Committee to order. The public line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Education Technology Committee are Hernandez as chair, Durant, Lanning, McGaffey, Winnenauer, Cepeda, Verando. If you are a member of the Education Technology Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Cepeda for vice chair.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Commissioner Cepeda has been nominated by Commissioner McGaffey to be vice chair of the Educational Technology Committee. Does the committee approve the nomination of the Commissioner Cepeda?
Yes.
Commissioner Cepeda is vice chair of the Education Technology Committee. We will now hear public comment on any items for the Education Technology Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Educational Technology Committee meeting.
I call the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee are myself, Commissioner Zepeda, Commissioner Durant, Commissioner Friedman, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Hicks, Commissioner Raygosa, and Commissioner Vang. If you are a member of the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business in this election is the election of the vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Vang for position of vice chair.
By acclamation, in accordance with the Roberts Rules of Order, Commissioner Vang has been nominated by Commissioner Raygosa to be Vice Chair of the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee. Does the committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Raygosa?
Commissioner Vang?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Vang.
Yes.
Commissioner Vang is Vice Chair of the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee. Okay. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the English Language Arts, English Language Development Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the Health Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Health Subject Matter Committee are Commissioner Bradshaw, Commissioner Fry, Commissioner Young. If you are a member of the Health Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Fry.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Fry has been nominated by Commissioner Guerra to be Vice Chair of the Health Subject Matter Committee. Does the committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Fry?
Yes.
Commissioner Fry is Vice Chair of the Health Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the Health Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Health Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the History, Social Science Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on the agenda item. The members of the 2025 History, Social Science Subject Matter Committee are Commissioner Durant, Commissioner Friedman, and Commissioner Young. If you are a member of the History, Social Science Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Friedman.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Friedman has been nominated by Commissioner Guerra to be the Vice Chair of the History, Social Science Subject Matter Committee. Does the Subject Matter Committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman is Vice Chair of the History Social Science Subject Matter Committee. Now we will hear public comment on any items for the History Social Science Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Public comment for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the History Social Science Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Mathematics Subject Matter Committee are Commissioner Lanning as Chair, Bradshaw, McGaffey, Reyna-Guerra, Vang, Winnower, and Verando. If you are a member of the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Reyna-Guerra.
I nominate Commissioner McGaffey.
Because there is more than one nomination, we will hold an election by vote. The vote will be by a show of hands. To vote for Commissioner Reyna-Guerra, raise your hand. To vote for Commissioner McGaffey, raise your hand. Commissioner Reyna-Guerra has been elected Vice Chair of the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee.
I call the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you'd like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee are Chair Commissioner McGaffey, Commissioner Bradshaw, Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Lanning, Commissioner Winnower, Commissioner Cepeda, and Commissioner Verando. If you are a member of the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you're not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Bradshaw.
I now close the nominations. By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Bradshaw has been nominated by Commissioner Guerra to be the Vice Chair of the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee. Does the Subject Matter Committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Bradshaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Bradshaw is Vice Chair of the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Personal Finance Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Physical Education Subject Matter Committee are myself, Commissioner Fry, and Commissioner Reyna-Guerra. If you are a member of the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please put your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Reyna Guerra, Commissioner Reyna Guerra.
I now close nominations. By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rule of Order, Commissioner Reyna Guerra has been nominated by Commissioner Fry to be Vice Chair of the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee. Does the Subject Matter Committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Reyna Guerra?
Yes.
Commissioner Reyna Guerra is Vice Chair of the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you, Denise. The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Physical Education Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the Science Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for the committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 Science Subject Matter Committee are myself, Commissioner Fry, Commissioner Bradshaw, and Commissioner Zepeda. If you are a member of the Science Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Bradshaw.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Zepeda has been nominated by Commissioner Bradshaw has been nominated by Commissioner Zepeda to be Vice Chair of the Science Subject Matter Committee. Does the Subject Matter Committee approve the nomination of the Commissioner? Commissioner Bradshaw is a Vice Chair of the Science Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the Science Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the Science Subject Matter Committee meeting.
I call the World Languages Subject Matter Committee to order. The public comment line for this committee is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on this agenda item. The members of the 2025 World Languages Subject Matter Committee are myself, Commissioner Rigoza, Commissioner Friedman, Commissioner Reyna Guerra. If you are a member of the World Languages Subject Matter Committee, please put your nameplate up. If you are not a member, please turn your nameplate down. Our only item of business is the election of a vice chair for this subcommittee. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Commissioner Friedman.
By acclamation, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner Friedman has been nominated by Commissioner Reyna Guerra to be Vice Chair of the World Languages Subject Matter Committee. Does the Subject Matter Committee approve the nomination of Commissioner Friedman? Okay. Commissioner Friedman is Vice Chair of the World Languages Subject Matter Committee. We'll now hear public comment on any items for the World Languages Subject Matter Committee. Are there any members of the public wishing to make public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. The public comment line for this agenda item is now closed. I now close the World Languages Subject Matter Committee meeting.
Now we are going into the full commission reconvening, so everybody can put their nameplates back up. I now adjourn the meeting. Good.
Goodbye.